You're listening to an AINC original podcast. We believe you don't have to do life without a compass. Let us be your guide on this amazing journey. Welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss.
Hello and welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss. I'm Kim Wardlow, your host. I'm also the Executive Director at the Audio Information Network of Colorado, the organization bringing you this podcast. So it's April. We are talking about various aspects of housing this month. And today we're talking about home repair and maintenance. And when we come back, I will be interviewing James Daigle with Loveland Handy Guy and talking about what types of things you should have in mind if you're moving into a new house or apartment. So we will be right back.
This is Navigating Life with Vision Loss. If you have a question, please visit us at aincolorado.org/podcast-guest. Make sure to subscribe to all of our podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And now, here's your host, Kim Wardlow.
Well, we are back, and we have James Daigle with us from Loveland Handy Guy to talk about home repair and maintenance. Hi, James. How are you this morning?
I'm good, Kim. Thank you. It's a lovely day. Spring is here.
Yes. And it's the time of year lots of folks tend to move in the spring, buying homes, just moving apartments, all those kinds of things. But before we dive into our topic today, do you want to just tell the folks a little bit about yourself? I don't know, any fun facts, interesting hobbies?
Well, skiing is one that just is starting to end for the winter months. But I've been, for fun, I guess, restoring homes for probably 30 years at least, and making them. My father was a designer and a chef, so I always made the kitchens a little bit more fun. And I had the pleasure many years ago of having dinner with Julia Childs at her house in Cambridge, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
And upon doing that, I got to really see her behind the scenes. And her kitchen, you can see it online. It's in the Smithsonian now, but it was really set up very strangely. Every pot and pan that she used to cook had a place on the wall, and it was outlined in black Sharpie.
That's interesting.
And then beside each section of the wall was a Polaroid picture of what these pans look like on the wall. And I asked quietly, why does she do this? My friend, who was her assistant, said she doesn't like to clean up, but she wants everything to be back in the same spot when she goes to get it. So in thinking about my friends that have vision issues, it's a perfect design, because if a friend's helping you, everything goes back to the same spot, so that the next time you're looking for the saucepan or the whisk or the blender, everything you use should be back into the same spot.
Right, wherever that is.
Yeah, whatever you like it to be.
Right, you may not want everything on your wall, but wherever
right.
you like it. Yeah.
Right, whether it's a drawer or whatever, but by having that routine and having your friends understand your routine, because I love to help my wife clean up after she cooks so nicely for me, but she does like stuff in her certain spot. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a really interesting, an amazing meal, and a really interesting view. And when I was in the Smithsonian about 5 years ago with the kids, they now have that kitchen in a display. It's really kind of really cool to see.
Yeah, anyone can look at it and
right.
see how she was set up.
Yeah, very simple, but she liked to cook, and she didn't want to be missing a pan when she needed it at that moment, I guess.
Well, what an interesting story. I had no idea that you had met Julia Childs. Well, thanks for sharing that. Let's dive into our topic of home repair and maintenance. So if a person has either bought a new home and they're moving in or they're moving into a new apartment, what are some of the things that they should be doing first, that they need to do first or be looking out for?
Well, I would say that I've looked and inspected homes for many of folks who, on the physical side, of whether the breakers are good or things like that. But also you have to look at, does this kitchen work the way you like to do? Hensing back to Julia's, or, are there too many stairs, or are there awkward doors, or are there space to move around? So certainly in purchasing something, my dad built a house for my mother when they were getting older, and he built it on one floor because he knew as they get older, they wouldn't be able to do the stairs. And he was in his 70s at the time, and he realized it would be good to live on one floor. So having things that fit your needs or the way you like to function is extremely important to me anyways.
What about specific items like smoke detectors or air filters?
So those particular things with vision taken into mind, knowing the date on the filter, when was the last filter changed, starting with a fresh one when you move in, whether it's an apartment or a house. If you do that, then every 2 months I should probably want to change it depending on your need. I have allergies with cats, so our filter gets changed more regularly than probably someone else's if I have those dust issues. So having the filters and then having backup filters, new clean ones ready to go in a spot where you know where they are. The smoke alarms, one of the things we now have is a 10-year battery system. Oh. So you can change out the old smoke alarms for $20 and put a brand new 10-year system in, which I would suggest to anyone moving into an apartment or a house. Then that whether it's a fresh battery, that you get a year off of it, or if you're going to be there for a while, put the 10-year one in. 10 years is a long time before you have to worry about that. That's a really nice thing, not to be woken up at 3 a.m. They seem to go off then. And
Isn't that the case?
Yes.
Always.
I used to manage a senior home apartments, and I would get calls in the middle of the night saying, my alarm's going off and I can't reach it. Well, I don't want you to try to reach it. You're 92 years old. But so, yeah, I've changed them out wherever I can to those long life ones. Okay.
So you would actually, if there's a smoke detector in place, you would actually need to change it.
It's really simple.
A specific detector that will take the 10-year
Yeah,
battery.
the new ones are a 10-year. I think they're all being sold that way now, but they still sell a few of the old ones. But I would just take, if you've got 2 in the house, have someone on a ladder replace it, put that one in. You don't have to worry about it again for 10 years. That's the best way to handle that. That's really nice.
What about electrical outlets and being sure that when you're moving in that all the outlets are functioning properly?
Well, I would have someone, when you're moving in, someone inspect it to make sure that all of the ground fault outlets, which are the ones you need around sinks, that prevents you, if you're using a blender and it falls into a sink, that you don't get electrocuted. So those are ground faults. Those have to be in bathrooms and kitchen sink areas, anywhere there's a wet area. So having those tested, and there's a little test button to them to make sure that they're functioning correctly, would be really nice and smart to do.
Okay. And then coming back to the kitchen, so not only the outlets, but the appliances themselves.
Right. An inspection on the appliance, a lot of time home inspections look at it. They don't go too deeply into it. But if you're needing help with that to set up your place, it would be nice to have someone to go through to make sure when you open up the stove or oven, that all of the sliders slide correctly. The worst thing in the world would be to have a slider come out and not slide out perfectly, and it tipped the pot of stew or something you were making in the oven. Making sure that the stove is level, so that when you're cooking, it's not tipping to one side. So that is just an adjustment. But a lot of times those things go off a little bit. and having that stove adjusted so it's perfectly level knows that if you're making an omelet, it's not going to end up in one corner of the pan.
Right.
So that is certainly something. Microwave, making sure that it's secure so that it doesn't tip on you if you open the door fully. Those, before you even start living or using the place, would be a great, making sure the cabinet doors are self-closing. Those are knobs that could be added to a cabinet that doesn't have those. What it does do is when you close the cabinet to a certain extent, it'll then continue closing it completely itself. I know that stories of people, they have them open and they forget. It would be nice to have that self-closing so that you know that it's always closed, that you're not going to walk into it by accident.
Right.
Doors, checking doors, going from room to room. We have an old house here that we live in, and our outside screen door, people think the place is haunted because if you leave it open, it'll close itself eventually because the house dips to one side. So making sure that your doors function, that they stay open for you. They're little wedges. Believe it or not, Ace Hardware still sells these cute little plastic wedges so you can open the door and wedge it so it stays open rather than putting your slipper in front of it or something like that. Mm-hmm. That would be helpful because I know if you're used to it, you want to keep a door open and you walk around the corner and the door is closed for some reason, that's not comfortable. I've walked into a glass door at night thinking it was open before.
Ouch.
Yeah, I thought it was open. I walked right into the screen and through the screen.
Definitely not good. Well, I know not all homes and apartments have them, but some do have fireplaces.
Mm-hmm. So if it's a wood fire, you have two types of fireplace. You have a wood fireplace, and then you have a gas fireplace. I would strongly suggest having a gas fireplace company. So not just a handyman, but somebody who installs and specializes in gas fireplaces come into the house and run through the paces with you to make sure that everything is functioning correctly, that the logs are in the right place, that it's getting the right even flame, and that there isn't any leaks on the cage that holds. It's kind of a glass box that the glass fireplace sits into. So having that inspected not by the inspector necessarily, because he might not notice those things, but somebody who sells it for a living, and one of their technicians or mechanics come in and make sure it's really up to speed, because a lot can happen if they bang it or it gets misaligned. You don't want those things happen.
Right. You don't want a gas leak or anything like that for sure.
So the other thing that some houses don't come with is a carbon monoxide detector. Mm-hmm. And I have a very short story that's close to home. After my father passed away, my mother wanted to stay living in the house by herself. So my brother and I came and looked at the house and realized, Mom, Dad never put a carbon monoxide detector in the house. Oh, he didn't like those things. He thought they were too modern or whatever. And so we bought one and put one in place. About 3 weeks later, her boiler went in the middle of the night. Well, she didn't hear it. She's close to 90 and she didn't hear it, but the neighbor did. So the neighbor came over, called the fire department, and could see some smoke coming through some of the windows. Not smoke, but I guess it was smoke because it was in the basement. It was the pipes, the exhaust pipes had broken down. They had rotted away from the inside. Mm-hmm. So that carbon monoxide detector that my brother installed there helped save her life. So you can buy plug-in ones. If the apartment or house doesn't have them, you can buy a series of them and plug them in. You can also call the local fire department. We'll send someone out to take a quick look. You explain your situation to them and say, you just want to take a look to see if everything's the right way.
Yeah, that can be really important. I think folks think of the smoke detectors, but don't always remember the carbon monoxide detectors.
Yeah, the other thing, keeping with the fire department, I would suggest strongly, too, to make sure that your egresses actually function. A lot of times in older houses, people end up painting the windows, painting the trim around the windows, and without putting too much paint in there, you can lock the window in place, and that window wouldn't open. So you really should know, if I can't get down the front stairs, how else can I get out of this? Is there another way? Is there a porch that I can get onto if I'm on the second floor? And I feel strongly that the fire department would be very helpful explaining that to someone.
And then that might be something if you're renting and it's not a property you purchased, asking the landlord if they can help with that as well.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely, my wife thinks I'm a little bit of a nut sometimes, but I like to know how I can get out of the house in a case of a fire. As a young man, I was a photographer and covered accidents and fires and saw several bad cases where there was no egress. That's why they won't rent you a basement apartment without a second egress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something to look at. If you're renting an apartment, you should make sure, because they probably figure, well, you're not going to ask, but there should be a window in the basement with a well cut out of the side of the house that you can climb out of. And running through that once couldn't hurt to make sure that it actually works.
Yeah, that's very important. It's not something you want to be looking for at the time you need it. If you have a fire, it's not the time to be checking to see how else you can get out. So definitely something to do in advance and perhaps have more than, two alternatives, your main door.
Right.
Hopefully there might be two other alternatives that you'd have depending on windows and how your apartment or home is situated.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately with landlords, and I'm not picking on landlords, but there are some times where they don't take that into thought. My son rented his first apartment at age 18, and he rented a bedroom in the basement, and it was really cozy and great for him, but there wasn't a way out. That legally, that room should never have been rented. So there were some discussions over that, but yeah, all that fire safety, having the fire department stop by to take a quick peek and say, look, this is what we suggest. Doors opening out to make sure that if you get a snow load, look at this year in California, people had to climb out through their windows. So knowing that you can have that happen is important to me.
So James, if a person, especially someone with vision loss or significant level of vision loss, they're trying to identify problems, maybe it's plumbing, maybe it's something else inside the house or outside the house. Do you have any tips about how one might identify that they have a problem or where the problem is?
Yeah, we're getting into a big picture there, but certainly bringing someone in like a handyman to take a look at, for some reason my toilet is acting slowly. The sink isn't draining correctly. Well, a lot of times over the years, the soap and certain types of soap will build up in a kitchen sink, or worse, in a bathroom sink, because the bathroom sink faucet drain is really small. So having that opened and cleaned and then start fresh, then you know where it is. So it can't hurt to have, upon moving into the house or moving into the apartment, have the drains opened up, or ask the landlord, when was the last time that this was cleaned? We have a lot of problems with buildings with garbage disposals, where they don't say, they say, well, I never use it. Well, the worst part about a garbage disposal is not using it.
Oh.
Because if you don't use it, the metal blades, and they are metal blades, they're not titanium or aluminum, they will rust.
Oh.
And when they rust, they stop it from moving through. And then you get a backup. So in the senior homes, a lot of times we saw that because they're not capable of doing it themselves, or maybe have never been exposed to it before. They're on their own for the first time. So having drains checked, especially if you're buying a home, that's a really good thing to have them cleaned out and checked, ready to go. Anything that can break, if you know you've replaced it, then, it's like putting new tires on. You're good to drive cross country versus, 5-year-olds.
Right.
tires.
It's good to start out when you first move in, knowing everything is good to go, or knowing if there is something that you need to have repaired, knowing what that is. So
Yeah, I mean,
prepared for that.
I'm a firm believer of putting extra light bulbs in a spot where you know where they are. It goes back to, I really love Julia's kitchen because it goes back to that thought process that, where are my light bulbs? I need a light bulb, or not so much a light bulb, but like a battery or things like that. All of that stuff goes into one drawer. That I need a screwdriver because I need to loosen this a little bit. Something gets tight. Having one place for everything that's categorized, I'm sure is something that a lot of people don't necessarily think about, but it helps us in our day-to-day struggle of just being organized.
Right. Yeah, that's another part of it, is just knowing where you have things. If you need to make a repair or need to clean something out, where your supplies are as well.
Yeah, we were talking about the filters for the air conditioning or the ventilation system in the apartment or house. If you go to the store to buy one, buy two. Put the new one in and you have a backup there just in case it smells funny or you're not happy with it. You can change it out without having to go get another one that day. Because once you take it out, you want to have something else in there.
Would you recommend to someone that they have a contractor or an inspector do a full inspection of a home? Or I don't know if that's done in apartments and rental properties as well, just so you know ahead of time what either problems or potential problems are there.
So someone with vision impairment, it would be nice to either have a friend, not necessarily a home inspector who's looking for structural, heavy structural. Mm-hmm. That's usually required by the banks to make sure that you buy something that doesn't have a leaky roof already or a tiles missing. But having someone, either a handyman or a best friend, come over and walk through the apartment with you and say, okay, wait a minute, this doorknob is really loose. This is ready to fall off. And having all that stuff, basically the day-to-day functions that we forget about, tightened. If there's a going down, that we had looked at one house one time that was missing a bunch of bricks walking down. And the funny part at that time is the postal guy was delivering the mail to the people who still lived in the house at the time. And he came down the steps and I said to him, how long has that step been missing there? He says, oh my gosh, years. He says, I'm used to it. So I make sure that I step by it. And I said, well, if you're not someone who's used to that, that's something that somebody should have picked up on. Mm-hmm. And so having a friend or a handyman look around and say, okay, this door to the back door has got a giant air gap around it. It's missing its cushion. There's a little rubber cushion around it that prevents the airflow from coming in. So those are little things that the inspector might not notice because it wouldn't change the safety of the house for the bank.
Right.
But for yourself, the railing is a little bit loose, going down. That needs to be tightened. So having a friend walk through is always easier. If not, then you walk through it with like a handyman saying, just how do I make this safer? What do you notice? Oh, the windows don't close all the way here, or the windows won't open. I like to be able to open it. So those little things I think are important. Right.
Well, and I'm thinking if you're renting an apartment, also you're putting down a security deposit. So having gone through the apartment to check the condition of it before you move in and noting any of those types of things or any damage that's evident could be really important for when you go to move out, so that that you can say to the landlord, okay, these are the things that are already here as I'm moving in.
I would one cute trick, because what happens with us is whether we walk through with a friend and looking at it, is at the time you're doing that to get a roll of blue painter's tape. And every little thing that you find, the door doesn't close correctly in the cabinet or the refrigerator gets stuck, put a piece of tape on it. So when you walk back with the the owner of the property or the landlord or the property maintenance management company, you put those little pieces of tape everywhere. And as they walk through, they can see that and notice, oh, I see that is broken. That does need to get fixed.
Right, because you don't want to be held responsible. One, you want it fixed before you move in, just for your own use. But you also, if it's something that maybe it's more difficult to fix, or it's not something that's critical to fix, but you don't want to take the blame for whatever.
Oh, 100%. A list. We had a woman moving into an apartment, and I took over the position a couple months afterwards. And when I walked through, she says, "Oh my gosh, before I moved in, I wish I'd had these rugs cleaned because they're really a mess." I was like, "Oh yeah, they didn't clean these?" She says, "Evidently not. We came here, but we thought they'd clean them later." Well, now I said, "Where are you going to put all of your furniture? You've unpacked everything, and this rug should be either cleaned or replaced." So yes, extremely important before you walk in the door, give them the final check, that you sign off and your friends help you sign off on everything in there, so you know this is all set to go. This stain on the rug was here. Could we have it cleaned? It can't be cleaned. Please replace the rug. Especially in subsidized housing, they're responsible to do that. And I can't say that they're always on the ball, or maybe they have too much work that week and they miss something. So doing that and making sure that it's done correctly is before you start in on the new venture. And light fixtures on the ceiling that could potentially fall, especially
Yes.
someone who wouldn't notice that. That's where a friend or a maintenance, someone that's handy that way to come through and knows, oh, this should be fixed, that should be fixed, and making a good list and then starting fresh.
James, thank you so much for all this information that you've given us. Do you have any final tips on maintenance, easy maintenance that folks can do, or just to be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, again, everything, as soon as it starts to turn cold in the winter, if you walk your hand around the window, you will feel where the drafts are coming through, or doors. You can feel that there's a draft. Those things you can turn back to the landlord and say, please, there's a big draft space here, or this potential. And a lot of times it just as soon as it turns cold, you can start to feel that. So you may not have noticed it if you moved in midsummer, but come winter, you can ask for some weather stripping to be put in place. Especially if you're paying for your own heat, that's a big factor there. But using a friend, because a lot of times, as we know, we don't catch everything ourselves. I guess it's like dating. You meet somebody and you have your best friend check them out. They notice things that you didn't notice. So I hope my wife doesn't listen to this one. But yeah, reach out to somebody. Don't be afraid to ask questions. You're not doing it to be mean. You're doing it to be safe. The hinges need to be tightened or things like that. Nobody minds fixing that stuff, for the most part. Nobody meant to do it, but sometimes you just don't notice it.
Right.
So I hope it helps, and reach out to, a trusted handyman for a friend, or reach out to a best friend's husband or wife who is handy with simple things. My best friend, his wife is amazing. She helped me with the sprinkler system. So reaching out to her was great because I just didn't quite understand the new system. So don't be afraid to ask is my favorite thing.
Well, great. Well, thank you, James, again, for the information. If one of our listeners would like to contact you, how might they do that?
LovelandHandyGuy.com.
Okay, LovelandHandyGuy.com. Well, thank you. Well, next week, James is going to be back with us, and we're going to be talking about home safety and functionality. We touched on that a bit today, but we'll get deeper into that next week. I also just want to remind everyone, we do at Audio Information Network have the White Cane Project. If you are in need of a white cane, you can apply to receive one at no cost from us. That can be found on our website, aincolorado.org/white-cane-project. And you can fill out an application there to receive a white cane. And also, it's very important once you have your cane that you receive training on how to use the cane properly. And there's resources and things on our website for that as well. If you would like to donate towards that project, if you already have your cane, but you'd like to donate towards that project for someone else, you can also make a donation to go towards our White Cane project. And then lastly, I just want to remind everyone that our fundraiser, Concert in the Dark, is coming up on May 4th. It's really started with an interview on Aftersight, one of our other podcasts, with two of the musicians of the duo Heart and Soul who will be performing, talking about how we've really migrated to music and music performances, instead of being an audio experience, being a visual experience, and what the dancers are doing, or the lighting, or what the staging is. And wouldn't it be great to come back and have it be an audio experience? And then Diane Shore, who was also interviewed on Aftersight, heard about the idea, and she said she was in. So on May 4th, that's the concept of the Concert in the Dark. On May 4th, Diane Shore will be headlining, and Heart and Soul will also be performing. We will have some artists with visual impairments, with some tactile art that will be displayed before the performance and during intermission for individuals to check out. It will be at Rocky Mountain PBS's Buell Media Center in downtown Denver. We will offer sleep shades if folks want to be able to really focus on the audio experience. They're not required, but just to get that full audio experience, we'll be offering those. And you can also get tickets for the concert on our website, aincolorado.org/concert-in-the-dark. So we hope that you'll be able to join us for that event as well. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.